The tent is embarrassingly thin. You know this the moment you zip it shut. The fabric between you and whatever is out there could be torn by a house cat, let alone anything with actual intent. You lie there listening. A branch snaps somewhere to the left. Something moves through undergrowth, unhurried, not trying to be quiet. And you think, I am completely exposed. Then you fall asleep anyway. That's the strange part. I've camped enough times to know the anxiety of the first night is real and specific. It doesn't feel like deadline anxiety or social anxiety. It sits lower in the body, around the sternum, and has a texture that feels less like worry and more like recognition. Like some part of you is remembering something it was never consciously taught. You're a soft, slow, nearly blind animal who has decided to sleep on the ground in a place that belongs to things built entirely differently. Things with teeth, designed for exactly what they do. Things that can see you long before you can see anything at all. And yet, morning comes. It always does. I started genuinely thinking about why. Not the reassuring version. Bears don't usually bother people, you're fine. But the actual biological answer to a question that, when you sit with it long enough, becomes astonishing. Start here. You are to a predator, frightening. Not in any way that makes intuitive sense when you look in the mirror. No claws. Not fast. The night vision of a particularly slow cavefish. Everything about your physical profile suggests easy. And yet researchers at UC Santa Cruz ran a study in 2019 that should have been much bigger news. They played audio recordings of humans just talking, normal conversation, nothing threatening, near mountain lions in California, animals that can bring down a full-grown deer and drag it up a hillside. The lions ran, same rate as they flee from dogs, sometimes faster. They also abandoned kills. Not because of any identifiable threat. They heard voices and left food on the ground and moved away. From a purely caloric standpoint, that's a catastrophic decision. All the energy of the hunt surrendered. And they still made it. Because whatever alarm our presence trips in them runs deeper than hunger. That alarm wasn't learned by the individual animal. It was learned by every ancestor of that lion that survived a close encounter with humans. The bold ones, the curious ones, the ones who treated us like prey. They didn't reproduce at the rates the cautious ones did. We've been hunting large predators for roughly 2 million years. We hunted species into non-existence. Mammoths, cave bears, entire categories of megafauna that survived ice ages but couldn't survive us. In North America alone, we eliminated mountain lions from the entire eastern half of the continent. What survived were the careful ones. Over thousands of generations, that caution stopped being a choice and became a reflex. Became, in whatever way instinct operates neurologically, inherited memory. So when a leopard picks up your scent in the dark, it isn't running a conscious cost-benefit analysis. Somewhere older and less verbal than thought, something simply says, no, not that. Move on. Now consider how you smell. You've probably never thought about this, because you're surrounded by humans, and you've all agreed collectively to pretend nobody smells like anything. But to a bear, whose sense of smell is roughly 7 times stronger than a bloodhound's, you are a remarkable chemical event, synthetic fabrics, processed food still working through your system, still broadcasting, soap, insect repellent, sunscreen, a cocktail of artificial compounds with no equivalent anywhere in the natural world. Under all of that, faintly, you smell like a primate. But not the right one. Not anything that fits cleanly into the system. Predators don't have generic hunting instincts. A wolf's predatory response is calibrated, tuned over millions of years to specific prey animals, their movement patterns, their scent signatures. The reflex that fires when a lion sees a wildebeest is not the same reflex that fires when it encounters something unclassifiable. Something unfamiliar trips a different circuit. Not aggression, caution. You are, chemically and behaviorally, an anomaly. And anomalies, for animals making low-risk decisions, are best avoided. Fire is something else entirely. The fear of fire in animals isn't learned from experience. Laboratory-raised animals who have never encountered fire show avoidance behavior at the smell of smoke. It's encoded that deep. The animals afraid of wildfire in their evolutionary past survived it, and the ones who weren't afraid didn't. The fear gets written into the baseline nervous system, generation by generation. Humans discovered fire somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago. We've been sleeping next to it ever since. Not just for warmth, but because we stumbled onto a near-universal predator repellent before we had any concept of what that meant. A campfire signals, to every large animal within range, something here controls this. Approach carefully. We figured that out before agriculture, before pottery or writing or anything we normally call the beginning of human cleverness. Fire first. It turns out that was the right order. Here's what movies keep getting wrong about predators. They are not reckless. The fearless apex predator that attacks anything within range, that's fiction. A lion has no access to medical care. A wolf with a broken leg from a hunt gone wrong slowly starves. Every engagement a large predator enters is a calculation. Is this worth it? Is this prey familiar enough that I know how it will behave? A sleeping human fails this calculation in several directions at once. You are unfamiliar. A predator's confidence comes from pattern recognition. It has watched its usual prey thousands of times, knows exactly how it moves and panics. It does not know what a waking human will do. You might scream, you might have tools, you might have 5 other humans nearby. You are, from a predator's perspective, behaviorally unpredictable in ways that are specifically unappealing. You are also, when standing, surprisingly large. Bipedalism reads as assertive to other animals. It's what gorillas do when they want to intimidate, what bears do. A creature whose default posture is this upright doesn't read as prey even in sleep. The silhouette is wrong, and there are almost always easier options. The risk-reward math on engaging with something strange and possibly dangerous when familiar prey is available nearby simply doesn't work out. Human sleep itself deserves more attention than it gets. We cycle through stages all night, down into deep, slow-wave sleep, back up into lighter stages multiple times. During those lighter stages, the brain remains surprisingly responsive. External sounds still get filtered. Unfamiliar noises break through more easily than familiar ones. Researchers call this the sentinel function, the idea that sleep never fully releases its grip on the surrounding world. The humans in our past who slept too deeply passed that trait along less reliably than the ones who could move from unconscious to on their feet in seconds. So we sleep lighter, in shorter cycles, than most large mammals. We built in a watch we don't consciously operate. You feel helpless when you're asleep. You're not. Quite. The exceptions exist. They follow a consistent pattern. An injured predator, unable to hunt its usual prey. A starving one, whose habitat has been destroyed. One that's lost its inherited wariness through too much contact with humans who fed it. The lions of Tsavo, who killed railway workers in Kenya in 1898, were anatomically unusual, one with significant dental damage that made normal hunting nearly impossible. The Champawat tiger, responsible for hundreds of deaths in the early 1900s, was found to have had 2 canine teeth shattered by a gunshot. It couldn't hunt what it was built to hunt anymore. Something broke, the calculation changed, and what followed was the exception that reveals the shape of the rule. The rule, in a functioning ecosystem, with a healthy predator, the inherited caution holds. One final thing. That 2019 UC Santa Cruz study didn't just document that pumas are afraid of humans. It documented that this fear cascades. When pumas avoid areas with human activity, the deer there face less predation. Populations rise. Vegetation gets overgrazed. Medium-sized predators also pull back, and the rodent populations they normally control start expanding. The entire food web shifts, not because we hunted anything directly, but because the fear of us radiates outward like a signal. We change what every predator layer does without ever interacting with most of them, just by being there, just by being the thing that thousands of generations of natural selection told them to treat carefully. So lie in your tent, listen to whatever is moving in the dark beyond the nylon, feel that low, specific, ancient anxiety that doesn't quite respond to logic. That feeling kept every ancestor you have alive long enough to produce you. The thing outside isn't coming in. It knows something about you that you've mostly forgotten about yourself. That you are not helpless meat in the dark. That you are the animal that made everything else afraid. That your presence alone is enough to change how an entire ecosystem moves. It knows better than to test that.